$847. That's not your savings. That's everything you have. It's 11:50 at night. Rent's due Tuesday, the dentist can wait, and the blazer you need for the interview is $140 you don't have. You're 24. Every woman you know is running the same math at the same hour, and not one of you says it out loud. You'll sit in a room like this 10 times in your life. At 24 with $800. At 35, staring at your first six figures. At 50, the only woman at a table deciding where the money goes. Same woman, 10 completely different levels of wealth. Each one a different planet, with its own physics, and a price tag nobody prints on the receipt. Tonight we climb all of them. From this, all the way to $100 million. And what it costs to reach the top is not what you think. Not in dollars, in distance. This is what zero feels like. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Just a low, constant hum of arithmetic running underneath everything you do. You check your balance more than your messages. You know your account number by heart. You move $200 to savings on Monday and move it back on Thursday. Every grocery run is a calculation. You put the olive oil back, you buy the store brand, you keep a streaming password split with someone you don't even like anymore, because canceling feels like losing ground. And here's the part nobody says out loud. You pay a tax other people don't. You take the apartment with the lock that actually works, not the cheaper one across town, because the cheaper one didn't feel safe. You take the car home at midnight instead of the bus. Nobody calls that a financial decision. It is one. Safety has a price, and at this level you pay it in the only currency you have. Then it happens. A raise. Not a big one. $6,000 a year before tax. It lands as $387 a month, and you feel rich for exactly one afternoon. Then the car needs $400 in brake pads, and you learn the first hard law of money. Expenses expand to fill whatever space you make for them. But one night you pay off the smallest card, $1,200. Gone. You screenshot the zero balance and you send it to nobody, because nobody would understand why it means what it means to you. For the first time, a number moved in the right direction because of a decision you made. Rule 1. At zero, money isn't a tool, it's the air. And until you decide otherwise, fear is the one doing the breathing. You cross $10,000 in savings for the first time. You're 26. You've never had 5 figures in your life, not once. You check it constantly that first week. Not out of anxiety this time, out of disbelief. You don't do anything with it, you just let it sit there. Because the weight of $10,000 when you've never had it is so much bigger than the number itself. You feel like you've crossed into a different category of person. You haven't, but you feel it. So you start reading. Not motivation, not girl boss advice. Actual books about how money moves. You learn what an index fund is. You open a brokerage account and you stare at it for 3 weeks before you put a single dollar in. Because nobody taught you this. Your brothers got told to invest. You got told to be careful. So you teach yourself at midnight, alone. And somewhere in that month you find out something that changes the temperature in your chest. The guy 2 desks over, doing the same job you do, makes more than you. He didn't negotiate harder. He just assumed the number was negotiable. That afternoon, money stops being about safety. It becomes about information. You invest $1,500. The market drops the next day. You almost pull it out. You don't. That right there? That's the moment you decide whether fear runs your decisions or you do. Rule 2. Your salary is the most expensive thing you'll ever be grateful for. It feels like the floor. It's actually the ceiling. You're making $68,000 a year. You've got $40,000 saved. A Roth IRA you actually contribute to. By every measure they ever gave you, you're fine, stable. You did everything right, maxed the retirement account, built the emergency fund, avoided lifestyle inflation. And then one midnight you run the numbers honestly, all the way out, 40 years of disciplined, saving at your current income. You stare at the figure at the end of the spreadsheet and something drops, because it's fine, it's enough. It is not what you want. This is the competence plateau. You're excellent at surviving. You are not yet building. Meanwhile, the world keeps sending invoices for the woman you're supposed to be. The bridesmaid dress, the destination bachelorette, the group dinner where everyone just splits it evenly, and somehow you're covering the cocktails you didn't order. The wardrobe that's supposed to look effortless. None of it feels optional, all of it is. So you start a thing on the side. You don't call it a business. It makes $400 a month, then $900, then $1,700. You don't tell your employer. You don't tell most people. You reinvest every dollar back into it for 14 months, eating the same lunches, upgrading nothing. And your net worth crosses 80,000, then 110. Rule 3. The gap between what your salary pays you and what your life actually costs, that gap isn't a problem. That's where the leverage lives. You cross 150,000 in net worth. You're 32. You've got a rental property with 44,000 in equity, a brokerage account at 61, a side business doing 6,000 a month. And you still drive the same car. You've stopped telling people. You notice that talking about money as a woman makes people strange. They decide you're bragging, or they decide you got lucky, or they decide a man is behind it. None of those is useful, so you stay quiet. And you start saying no. The destination wedding you'd have to liquidate something to attend. The trip where you'd quietly subsidize 3 people. The opportunity pitched by a friend who's never read a cash flow statement. No, no, no. You feel the friction every single time. A woman who guards her money gets a name for it. Cold, difficult, no fun anymore. A man who does the exact same thing gets called disciplined. You feel it and you say no anyway. You learn that every yes you can't afford is a no to the woman you're trying to become. The shift happens quietly. You stop spending money to hold relationships together, and you start protecting capital to build options instead. Some of those relationships thin out. The ones that survive were never about the money. Rule 4. Below 500,000, you are buying assets. Above it, your assets start quietly buying each other. It happens on a Tuesday. Nothing ceremonial about it. Your brokerage updates and the number reads 1,040,000. You sit with it. You thought you'd feel different. You thought there'd be a moment. There's a quiet satisfaction. And then, almost immediately, it isn't enough. Not in a frantic way, in a clear, practical one. $1 million at a 4% return is $40,000 a year. That's not freedom. That's a starting line. And you're usually the only woman in the room where this is normal conversation. People assume you inherited it, or married it, or got handed it. You stop correcting them because the correction costs more energy than the assumption does, and you're learning that energy is the only thing that never compounds back. The strange part isn't that you're not happy. It's that happiness was never the point, and you're only now admitting that to yourself. Rule 5. The million was never the destination. It was the proof of concept, the proof that the machine you built actually runs. At 5 million, the game changes texture. It stops being about building and starts being about positioning. You're moving capital now, not working for it. That distinction sounds small. It is enormous. You're in one deal that could return $800,000 in 18 months, and another that might return nothing. And you're in both on purpose, because one de-risks the other, and the relationship between them is the actual trade. That's a sentence you couldn't have understood 4 years ago. You start meeting people at 20 million, 50 million. You study them the way you once studied the $10,000 mark from zero. Not what they own, how they think. The pace is slower. The patience is longer. They're not trying to win every hand. They're trying to still be at the table when everyone else has gone home. And here's the thing that becomes your quiet weapon. People still underestimate you. You walk into the room and they read you as the assistant, the +1, the diversity seat. You let them. Being underestimated is the cheapest leverage you will ever own. It lets you see the whole room before the room decides to see you. Rule 6. At this level, your reputation becomes a financial instrument. It earns whether or not you show up that morning. Your net worth crosses 30 million. You're in your 50s. You have structures now that will outlive you. A trust that protects the assets, a foundation that costs you $800,000 a year and functions, honestly, partly as access and partly as the one thing that still feels like a decision. The game no longer needs your full presence. It needs your positioning. You could disappear for 6 months and the machine would keep running because that's what the machine was always for. There's a board meeting. 5 people in a room with enough combined capital to reshape a mid-sized economy. You speak for 4 minutes. You ask 2 questions. The room moves around those questions. You leave before lunch is served. That is power at its most compressed. No volume, no spectacle, just a room that calibrates to where you're standing. And the isolation isn't loneliness. It's something stranger. The people who knew you before can't follow you into the language anymore. Dynasty trusts, secondaries, carve-outs. You're not a different person. Your context just stopped translating. So you give. Not for the reputation, though you understand that's part of it. You fund the thing you needed at 24 and didn't have. A girl, somewhere, being taught the rules before they cost her anything. Rule 7. Above 50 million, money stops measuring your worth. It starts measuring your reach. And somewhere in this city, right now, there's a 24-year-old woman opening her banking app for the first time tonight. Her balance is $847. She's standing in a grocery line doing the math. She puts the good coffee back. She gets the store brand. She thinks this is a story about money. She thinks that if she just makes more of it, something will finally resolve. She doesn't know yet what actually has to resolve. She doesn't know what it will cost, not in dollars, in distance, in the gap that opens between who she is at the beginning and who she has to become to reach the end. The machine doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't ask if the trade is worth it. It opens every morning and it takes whoever shows up. And whoever shows up, patiently, without flinching, without stopping to ask the question everyone else is asking, compounds. The money compounds. And so does everything else. The balance is $847. It always starts there. It always will.